I'm Cheryl, and this is Sleep Tight Relax, a weekly bedtime show for kids who need a good sleep. Tonight's story is all about bugs. Do you like bugs? Is there a particular bug you enjoy watching, or maybe one you're not too fond of? Personally, I am not a fan of earwigs. I've always found them a bit unsettling, and it seems like they're always nearby when I least expect it. I remember when I was younger, it felt like earwigs were everywhere I went, which I thought was kind of yucky. The bugs in our story are tumble-bugs, which are a type of dung beetle. Tumble-bugs are known for their impressive ability to roll balls of dung, or poop, which they use to create nests for their eggs and as a food source for their larvae. These insects play a crucial role in our ecosystem by recycling nutrients, improving soil health, and controlling pest populations. In our story, The Helpful Tumble-bugs, the main characters, Mr. and Mrs. Tumble-bug, are a hardworking couple who live in a bustling barnyard. Known for their teamwork and dedication, they carefully prepare an egg ball to ensure their future offspring's safety. Throughout their day, they face challenges like rolling their egg ball over obstacles, but they tackle them with determination and clever thinking. After realizing the benefits of working smarter, not harder, they learn to plan better and find more efficient paths. By balancing hard work with relaxation and reflection, they become known as the cleverest bugs in the barnyard, enjoying both their work and time to play. Let's get super cozy and ready to listen to our story. We can start relaxing by taking 3 deep belly breaths. Breathe in. Feel the air come in through your nose, filling your belly full of air. Now breathe out, just like you are letting out a slow sigh. Softly breathe in and out. Let's do that again. Breathe in, filling your belly with air, and breathe out, slowly releasing the air. As you breathe, notice anything that might be a bit uncomfortable. Notice how your wiggly toes feel, how your legs feel, how your belly gets bigger as you breathe in and gets smaller as you breathe out. Notice your arms and your head. Breathe in deeply, filling your body with air and relaxation. Breathe out slowly, expelling any tension. Perfect. You are already feeling more calm and relaxed. You can keep practicing your deep breathing if you like as we continue with our story. The Helpful Tumble-bugs. In the far corner of the bustling barnyard, a pile of manure waited patiently behind a tall, weathered fence. It was destined to be spread across the garden, enriching the soil so that the plants could grow strong and healthy. While it waited, the manure pile was home to a lively community of insects. There were big bugs and little bugs, plump bugs and skinny bugs, young bugs full of energy and old bugs full of wisdom. Most of these bugs were good-natured and friendly, but a few could be a bit mischievous from time to time. Among all the insects living there, none were as hardworking or as caring toward each other as the Tumble-bugs. Mr. and Mrs. Tumble-bug were a particularly devoted couple. They were married in June, just a day after they were born, which was the custom among their kind. A June wedding is the best kind of wedding, Mr. Tumble-bug often said with a wink. Mr. Tumble-bug believed in getting married young. "I've known Tumble-bugs who waited until they were 2 days old to marry," he said thoughtfully. "But by then, each gets so used to doing things their own way that it's hard for them to agree on anything." Mrs. Tumble-bug and I always think alike, and that's why we're so happy. He smiled warmly at Mrs. Tumble-bug, and she smiled back with equal warmth. They were nearly always together, working side by side. Perhaps it was this teamwork that kept them so close. If one had spent all day working while the other played, they might have drifted apart. One bright and sunny summer morning, Mrs. Tumble-bug had a special surprise for her husband. "I found the perfect spot for our egg ball," she announced excitedly. "It's the most wonderful place you could imagine. Hurry up, I can't wait to show you." Mr. Tumble-bug, who was just finishing his breakfast of dewdrops and plant bits, quickly gulped down the last bite. "I'm ready," he declared eagerly. "Follow me," Mrs. Tumble-bug called out, leading the way across the barnyard floor, which was scattered with bits of straw and tiny pebbles. They moved quickly, their little feet tapping rhythmically as they scurried over the ground. The barnyard was quiet, with no horses around to worry about, so they felt safe on their journey. Mr. Tumble-bug followed closely behind his wife, and together they made quite a sight. A neat, shiny couple with their flat black bodies gleaming in the morning sun. "We may not dress as flashy as some bugs," they often said, "but black always looks elegant." And it was true. Even though they spent their days working in the dirt, they were always clean and shining, with smiling shovel-shaped faces. "There it is," Mrs. Tumble-bug said, stopping to point with her right front leg at a spot just ahead. "Isn't it perfect?" She could point without tipping over because she had 5 other legs to keep her steady. Having 6 legs was quite handy, especially for Tumble-bugs, whose tumbling was a part of their work, not clumsiness. "Excellent choice," Mr. Tumble-bug exclaimed, inspecting the spot. "The ground is so soft and fine here. You won't tire yourself out digging in it." He wasn't worried about tiring himself because his wife enjoyed the digging part of their work and preferred to do it herself. The couple scurried back to the manure pile, ready to start their work. As they rolled a ball of manure, which was initially larger than both of them, Mrs. Tumble-bug chattered away about their neighbors. "I don't understand why some bugs are so careless," she said. "Look at that beetle over there, laying her eggs right out here in the open. If she leaves them there, some hungry bug might gobble them up before sunset. I want our children to be safe and sound when they hatch. Those beetles don't deserve to have kids if they don't take care of them properly." "Well, they won't have many kids if they keep that up," Mr. Tumble-bug replied with a chuckle. "Maybe just a small little family of 20 or 30. Now, let's get to work," Mrs. Tumble-bug said with determination. "Help me roll this ball of manure. I've already laid an egg inside it, so we didn't waste any time chatting." Together, they rolled the ball away from the pile. As it rolled, dust and dirt stuck to it, forming a protective crust. Mrs. Tumble-bug climbed onto the ball, pulling it forward with her hind legs, while Mr. Tumble-bug stood on his head behind it, pushing with his strong back legs. Of course, if Mrs. Tumble-bug hadn't been climbing backward, the ball would have rolled right over her. It was tricky work, requiring careful coordination to pull forward while climbing backward, especially with her head lower than her heels. Even though the work was hard and took a lot of breath, she didn't get upset. That showed what a patient and excellent bug she was. "Push harder," she called out to Mr. Tumble-bug. "We're coming to a little hill." Mr. Tumble-bug, who was balancing on his head, pushed with all his might. He couldn't see where they were going unless he let go of the ball, but Mrs. Tumble-bug didn't believe in going around obstacles. She was determined to face challenges head-on. "What if there's a hill?" she often said. "Can't we go over it?" And over it they went, even though going around might have been easier. Mrs. Tumble-bug didn't want anyone to think she was afraid of hard work, and she knew her husband would get a chance to rest while she buried the ball. Sometimes when the ball suddenly rolled over a twig or a pebble, it toppled onto her, and Mr. Tumble-bug would get very worried. Some bugs thought she deserved this for insisting on going over things, but one hardly likes to say so. When they reached a big hill, she climbed down and discussed the best approach with him. They put their heads together, literally, under the ball, and pushing at the same time, sent it rolling over the top. "Two heads are better than one," they'd say, "and this needs a lot of head work." Finally, the ball reached the spot where they intended to bury it. Both bugs were hot and tired, but proud of their hard work. "Many legs make light work," Mrs. Tumble-bug said as she cleaned her legs before settling down to eat lunch. "And nothing feels better than finishing a big job." Mr. Tumble-bug sighed contentedly and said he might go for a walk with some of his friends that afternoon. "All work and no play makes for a dull bug," he said with a grin. Then he called out, "Goodbye, dear, and don't work too hard while I'm gone." Mrs. Tumble-bug watched him leave with affection. "Isn't he wonderful?" she thought to herself. "Not many bugs help their wives at all, let alone see to it that their eggs are safely placed." And she was right. The Tumble-bugs were model parents in the barnyard. Mrs. Tumble-bug felt a sense of accomplishment, but she was also ready for some relaxation. She enjoyed a leisurely lunch, savoring the quiet of the afternoon. After eating, she lay back and reflected on their work. "Maybe there's a better way to do this," she thought. "If we plan a bit more, we could have more time for rest and play." Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden commotion. A stray chicken, chirping loudly, wandered into their area. Mrs. Tumble-bug quickly hid under a nearby chip for safety. The chicken seemed lost and was calling out for its mother. "Mother, Mother Hen, I want to go home and sleep under your wings." "Goodness," exclaimed Mrs. Tumble-bug. "Is it bedtime for the chickens already?" She peeked through a crack in the fence and saw the long shadow stretching across the lawn. It must be late, she realized. And here I've spent the entire day working. I wish I had more time to relax and enjoy. Determined to make a change, Mrs. Tumble-bug decided that the next day would be different. She'd try new methods and see if they could not be just as efficient, but with less effort. She finished her dinner and went straight to bed, eager to put her new ideas into practice. The following morning, Mrs. Tumble-bug woke up feeling refreshed and ready for a new challenge. Over breakfast, she shared her thoughts with Mr. Tumble-bug. "I think we can find an easier path today," she suggested with a hopeful smile. Mr. Tumble-bug nodded in agreement. "That sounds like a great plan. Let's work together to find a smoother way." With a bit of planning and teamwork, the Tumble-bugs set out to roll their next egg ball. They carefully chose a path that avoided the biggest obstacles and learned to go around instead of over when it was easier. By mid-morning, they had finished their work with energy to spare. Afterward, they took time to relax in the warm sun, enjoying the gentle breeze and the sounds of the barnyard. They had learned that working smarter, not harder, was the key to a happy and fulfilling day. As they rested, Mrs. Tumble-bug reflected on their success. "I think we've found a good balance," she said contentedly. "We've worked well, and now we have time to enjoy." Mr. Tumble-bug agreed. "Yes, we have, and it's all thanks to your smart thinking, my dear." And so, the Tumble-bugs became the cleverest bugs in the barnyard, known not just for their hard work, but for their smart work too. They realized that taking time to relax and reflect made life even more wonderful in their busy little world. From then on, they approached each day with a spirit of curiosity and fun, knowing that every challenge could be met with teamwork and a bit of thoughtful planning. If you are still awake, I would like you to whisper to yourself or just say in your mind, "I am a hard worker and can overcome challenges with determination. Working together with others makes me stronger and more successful. I am a problem solver and use my thinking skills to make smart choices. I take time to rest and recharge so I can do my best. I am calm, relaxed, and peaceful. Good night. Sleep tight."